is my favorite meat.
Indeed. All right, guys, I'm gonna read some comments from the show, interact with you guys, because I love these comments. I'm glad we're doing back to bonus episodes where I interact with you guys. If you wanna write in a couple here, I could read those too. But I am gonna keep it a little bit quick here because we're all gonna go, of course, for 4th of July, including you guys. So on TYT.com, CB1 said, currently third parties just help Republicans take more power. Third parties don't work without ranked choice voting. But brother, remember, Trump, I almost called him Trump, sorry about that. Tucker Carlson's talking about starting a third party that presumably, and Marjorie Taylor Greene too, and now Sean Ryan, Candace Owens, that presumably would take a lot more votes away from the Republicans. So it definitely depends, and it depends on the situation. So, I mean, in the past, the establishment Democrats would have been like, a third party from the right, yes, we're gonna win all the elections, right? But of course, since they're anti-Israel, the establishment Democrats are like, no, boo, boo, no, bad Tucker, right? So, Eclectic Miscellanea writes in, AIPAC Tracker is doing an amazing service to our country. I totally agree. It's one easy way to tell immediately which of our elected officials are traitors. I totally agree. In fact, I just used them in the last 2 interviews. In the middle of the interviews, I looked up what AIPAC Tracker had for their opponents. And in the case of Jared Moskowitz, unsurprisingly, it was a large number. Nerd Ferguson wrote in, if the war is costing us too much money, maybe we could ask Israel to fund it for us. Isn't it funny that like the idea that Israel funding the wars that it wants is absurd? Everyone knows that's impossible, right? And yet our media goes, you can't say Israel controls us. That's a trope. You're eliminated from the national conversation on behalf of Israel. I mean, because it's a trope. Yeah, sure, okay. All right, then why don't they pay for their own wars? Why don't they fight their own wars? Why do we have to pay for everything? Shut up, you're an anti-Semite. Serve Israel. I mean, I'm an American journalist. Sure you are, brother, sure you are. Iowa gal, I look at this and now I can curse because it's a bonus episode. And I'm scared as shit about what legacy I'm leaving my children, grandkids, great grandkids, and beyond. My heart breaks every time. Now, Iowa gal, you gotta hang in there, okay? I need you hopeful and optimistic and energized for the fight. And now, by the way, I hate to say it, but hashtag Cenk was right. You say, optimism in these dark days, you crazy? And look at what happened in New York. Look at what happened in Colorado. We're not winning everywhere. Before, if you asked me like, Eric Jones, Oliver Larkin, you know me, I've been supporting guys like that the last 10 years at a minimum, right? And trying to push them forward, right? And we'd win from time to time, but a lot of losses in there. Now, no, I think Eric Jones and Oliver Larkin have an excellent chance of winning. Now, if you're an incumbent, we hate you, as my wife sometimes says. So yeah, hell yeah, they could win. Eric could definitely win, and Moskowitz has all the mainstream media behind him. But these days, that's kind of an albatross around your neck. So it's a beautiful time. Don't remember the last thing at the end of Pandora's box after all the ghouls and goblins fly out is hope, and we're at the bottom of the box. So that's why hope is now beginning to fly out. So this is not the time to get discouraged. Sexy Speed Racer says about the hot dog shirt. He says, I have that shirt. So do I. Another NI. Yesterday we went to a movie at the mall, me, my wife, and my son. And I was wearing our Band in the UK t-shirt. And a funny thing happened. I was like, in the old days when I went to the mall, it was just me. But like so many people recognize me these days that I'm not, that when they see me, they're not like, that's a dude wearing a Young Turks t-shirt or whatever. I got worried for the first time that somebody was thinking, hey, that's weird. Look at Cenk Uygur wearing a Cenk Uygur t-shirt, right? And I was like, is this not, okay? I don't know, I felt like weirdly, slightly self-conscious for the first time. So we'll see. Anyway, although those Band in the UK shirts are super fun. All right, Bart has a no quarter given for Tom Kean. He wrote in the middle of the show, typical conservative take from Tom Kean, negates certain matters of the human experience from an egocentric perspective. Until that happens to him, that train is never late. And Bart, you're right. We've covered that a million times on the show. Republicans who are like, oh, yeah, being gay is terrible. We're against gay marriage. Oh, it turns out my son's gay. Okay, now I'm in favor of gay marriage because it happened to me. You know, they were human before it happened to you. They deserved equal rights before it happened to you. Your son is gay. Yeah. So Anna said, you know, it happens to, you know, everyone these days, especially in politics. There's definitely truth to that, but I think Bart is more right. In our experience, it's happened on the Republican side way more. Sepulchro 1223 writes in on Twitch, the neocons never left. No, they're just like Bob, and what about Bob? You think they're gone? They're not gone. You open the door, there's the neocons. They've always been there. By the way, Bill Kristol and a bunch of the other neocons infiltrated the Democratic Party. And that's why Kamala Harris did the idiotic move of campaigning with Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney. She's like, don't worry, I'll serve Israel and start more wars too. Look, I'll wrap myself around the Cheneys like a moron. That's because the neocons are 100% in charge of Washington, and they have been our whole lives, we just didn't know it. Ronald Bragzala and Elizabeth Lewis, you guys are awesome. Thanks for joining on YouTube. We appreciate it. Hopefully you're watching this. Let me read some YouTube member comments. Dan Sorensen writes in, imagine how nuts the media would go if the Israeli settlers in the West Bank were forcibly removed and sent to camps. Look, forget sent to camps. Like if you sent a single Israeli to a camp, our media would say it was the worst thing that's ever happened since the meteor hit Earth and destroyed nearly all of life on Earth. And I don't want anybody sent to a camp, so I don't mind that reaction. You're gonna send 2 million Palestinians to a concentration camp. They're like, whatevs, who cares? Self-defense. We had to put you in a concentration camp out of self-defense. Really? Really? And yet every cable news anchor is pretending that that's the case. And so no, they're deeply racist, they're disgusting bigots. Almost everyone in mainstream media hates Muslims, and they might not know consciously, a bunch of them do know consciously, but no, they don't view Muslim lives, or really if you're Christian lives in the Middle East as well, as real or fully human. They certainly act that way. I mean, you all saw it with your own eyes. Just to repeat this one last time from earlier in the show today. So we have the same amount of people killed in Gaza as October 7th since the ceasefire, just since the ceasefire. And American media is like, we don't give a shit at all. We're gonna pretend that there is a ceasefire. We're gonna pretend like we're not gonna report on all those dead Palestinians. And we're not gonna tell you that Israel stole 70% of Gaza because they're fucking liars for Israel. That's stone cold fact. Show me where they're saying it. Show me where they're writing it, right? Show me where they're outraged. Oh, on cable news, they were constantly outraged by what's happening in Gaza. No, they don't give a shit because those are only Palestinians. Their lives don't matter to people in American national media. And then West Bank, they've slaughtered over 1,000 people there, and they've killed 7 times the kids as October 7th. So is that the worst thing that's happened since the Holocaust? No, American media at large has said, we don't give a fuck. They're only Palestinians. So no, we're not gonna say it's the worst thing since the Holocaust. We're not even gonna tell people. Because cable news is a bunch of propagandists for Israel. You're nuts if you're watching that toxic crap. So no, yes, they would have a very, very different reaction if it happened to Israelis. Because everyone working in American media is like, Israelis, the most precious, beautiful, valuable people on earth. We all have to work super hard to give them all of your money. Okay, and they're allowed to kill anyone they like. Anti-Semite. Craig, presumably from Ohio, OH 1981 says, I love the fact that all these progressive candidates are running and winning. It just sucks that our country has had to go to complete shit for people to wake up and finally vote these candidates. That's partly true, Craig, but it's also mainly because mainstream media lost its power. Before, those fucking liars would tell you, oh yeah, the real Democrat is the corporate one that takes all the PAC money. It is leading the race. What a great leader in the race. They raise so much money, they're wonderful. Oh, that outsider piece of shit. He has the wrong tattoo. He hates people. Something, I made it up, I investigated. Did you investigate Jared Moskowitz? How dare you, anti-Semite? You're not allowed to investigate him at all. Okay, so because of the piece of shit media has not completely defeated, but greatly weakened, that's why people are waking up and going, oh, why would I vote for the asshole? Why would I vote for the corrupt guy instead of the honest guy? Like, without the disgusting propaganda of mainstream media, these decisions are super easy. Who the hell would vote for the more corrupt one? Unless the liars on TV told you to, and they didn't even give you a second option. Okay, so, all right, let's keep going. Efrain Crespo writes in, and they're a new member, I love that. Can't have your own state, so here's your box to live in. And that is basically what they've told the Palestinians. And mainstream media gave bravo, Israel's our ally, Israel's our ally. Okay, you can tell I'm never gonna let it go. God, they're such giant liars. Okay, all right, let's keep going. Kat Denai says, it blows my mind. Oh, I don't have to have this anymore. It blows my mind that in 2026, we're fighting fascism again. We all know what happens in concentration camps. You are very right, Kat. By the way, I've gotten really good in my time on air at reaching behind me and unclipping an IFB, best in the business. Neil Whittington says, I've actually been watching TYT since Dakota Access Pipeline days, that's awesome. With Trump's illegal war with Iran, he's following Netanyahu's ways. US and Iran allied before. Oh yeah, we could easily be allies with Iran. We could be allies with the entire Middle East. We could be allies with 2 billion Muslims. But we are not allowed to because the Israelis say, no, you have to hate the Muslims and you have to finance their slaughter. And you have to keep going to war with them. Give me $8 trillion for war because I'm your best ally. No, they're not remotely an ally. We could have the 2 billion allies overnight if we just told Israel to piss off. But how would they defend themselves with only their nukes and their Iron Dome and their giant military and all the wars they've started? That's not self-defense when you start a war. So honestly, I don't care what happens to Israel. Why would I care? They're like, no, you have to care. I don't know, I'm under no obligation to care about Mongolia or Tajikistan or Israel or Bolivia. No obligation at all. And no, of course, the media and our government says, oh no, of course you shouldn't care about the Bolivians and the Mongols. Who cares? Kazakhs, who cares? Who cares about everyone else but Israel? You're all dirty, dirty anti-Semites if you don't care, and give me your wallet. Scott Langford writes in, how awesome is Joe Kent? 100%. I hope he never changes. Your immediate attention to this is required. Always a great show, TYT. Thank you, Scott. And that was he was obviously mocking Trump there. Now let's go to Super Chat. Chrono Hop says, statements by early Zionists were often indistinguishable from the Nazis, including from the first president of Israel. This is nothing new. People are just noticing. No, look, if you go back and look at the old quotes of Israeli leaders, they were brazenly honest. I mean, the one I quote you guys all the time is haunting enough to begin with. There's so many others. Maybe I'll bring them to you from time to time. But Golda Meir said, "We'll never forgive the Palestinians for making us kill their children." And you know what's weird and like funny, but not like in a funny way, but in a haunting way, that Israelis quote that. Like for real, they don't realize they sound like Nazis when they quote that. And our media quote like, oh, Golda Meir, what a great person. Oh, she was so amazing. The way she was murdering the Palestinian children because the Palestinians made her. They made her kill her kids. And you know what? The Palestinians shouldn't be forgiven. They should never be forgiven for making the Israelis murder their kids and then bragging about it, But there's quotes like that to no end. So look, yeah. If you get into the history of the Zionists, you see that unfortunately the last haunting legacy of the Nazis was to give the Zionists who were trying to escape from Europe the idea that might makes right. That if you ever get power, you should use it to obliterate your opponents. And so that is a portion of the PTSD from the Holocaust. And does it apply to everyone who suffered through that? Absolutely not, absolutely not. But some of the Zionists got the idea, oh yeah, this is what you do. They didn't see it as a warning. They unfortunately, apparently, saw it as a how-to manual. And look, keep it real. You think this is new? No, in 1947, Jews owned 6% of the land that is currently Israel and Palestine. And then they got gifted 55%, but they didn't actually have the land. The UN and the Western countries were like, fuck the Palestinians. We got bribed, let's keep it real. That happened back in the day, that 100%. They got bribed by Zionist leaders in the West. So they said, okay, we're creating Israel. But what difference does it make if you only own 6% of the country? Oh, right, that's why they then murdered the people in the rest of the country and drove them out in their first ethnic cleansing. 750,000 Palestinians at a bare minimum were driven out because they were killed and dragged, their dead bodies dragged through the middle of the streets in the villages and the towns until everybody ran for their lives in fear. And our media told us a fairy tale about how the Palestinians went for a picnic and never came back. And the vicious, dirty Palestinians and Arabs attacked the poor Israelis. Oh, golly gee, because the Arabs attacked and the Israelis were made to kill all their kids and take all their land. And then all of a sudden they had all of Israel. And then they took more of the West Bank and the more of the Gaza Strip and more Golan Heights and Sinai Peninsula and now southern Lebanon and western Syria and expanding and expanding and expanding their imperial fascist empire as the goddamn liars in America told us they were the victims and doing self-defense. Just like the Germans said, oh no, we have to defend the native Germans in the Sudetenland and in Poland. No, we're doing self-defense. We just need a security zone. Exactly what the Israelis are saying. No, taking other people's land is not self-defense. It's fascism, and it's imperialism, it's colonialism, and it's evil. Okay, Angel Menendez says DSA 2028 goals should be forcing corporations who profited from this illegal war to pay back citizens through a stimulus check, also go after traders. If you mean politically, and yeah, I totally agree. And I like your idea of getting us paid back. Maybe the defense contractors can give us some money back. And obviously, Israel, since they're such a wonderful ally, can give us the $113 billion for this war that they ordered. I know, if you ask for money back from the Israelis, you're an anti-Semite. Mohid Baki says, Citizens United 2.0 sucks, but recent DSA's wins show grassroots strategies more effective than taking PAC money. PAC money equals corrupt laziness, more F2F interactions with voters, face-to-face meaning, is better than PAC money on TV ads equals more votes. Mohid, I wish you were right, and I love the direction you're going, and you're 2/3 right? So now we have more hope than ever. I talked about it earlier, and a lot of these candidates can win before they couldn't win. But in the bad old days when mainstream media was dominant, we still did face-to-face with voters, and we would knock on doors and do town halls for progressive candidates till the cows came home, and it wasn't enough. The media is way more powerful than you realize. So that's why online media now has given us a fighter's chance. That's the biggest difference by far. And online media is good, it has its upsides, downsides, but mainly legacy media is horrific. And since there's less poison in the media now, that's why people are beginning to see clearer and voting the right way. Throbbing at 37 Pakistani American says, I share this on X, but even if IDF's own database reveals 83% of Gaza's dead were civilians, directly contradicting Zionist spokespeople who claim precision strikes target only militants, internal intel exposes the lie. This is not war, it's systematic slaughter of innocents. The data proves collective punishment, not self-defense. Truth will not be buried forever, #free Palestine. And everything he stated is a fact, and a fact you will never see on television. Because if you found out that the IDF has a worse civilian kill ratio than Hamas or Hezbollah, then you would know that IDF is indisputably the terrorists. And of course, everyone in media is working for Israel, so that's the very last thing that they want you to find out. And if you do find out they will try to ruin your life by calling you an anti-Semite. But I love that they've lost their power. I can't wait to boss them around, okay? I can't wait for us to have more power than them. And then when they try their bullshit lies, for us to swat them away and have the time of our lives doing it. Last two, Miker Dave writes in, or Mikar Dave. 1973, Israel was running low on ammo and weapons. 1976, Time, I think Time magazine, detailed Meir ordering nukes loaded onto planes. That's Golda Meir that I mentioned earlier. Out in the open, knowing the US would see it, she got everything despite warnings from USA Defense Department. Yeah, actually, not only are you right, but Jonathan Pollard referenced that the other day, because they're brazen now. He's like, yeah, America was telling us not to attack, so we loaded up a nuke on a plane and showed it to America. Now, he didn't make it clear, and I'm not perfectly clear if they were threatening to drop a nuke on their Arab neighbors and that freaked America out, or if they were threatening us. But there isn't anything that the Israelis won't threaten to steal more land. If that offends you, you're not watching anymore anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But even if you are watching, I don't care, because that's a fact. They put a nuke on a plane and pretended to be victims, saying, oh yeah, we'll murder hundreds of thousands of civilians. We'll light them all on fire, babies, grandmothers, etc. Basically, that was Israel saying we have no moral balance at all. So this is not a new thing. They've been doing this the entire time. We got sold a bunch of bullshit about, kibbutzes and all that horse crap, right? And look, the reason I'm more angry than the average bear is because I believed a lot of it. I believe that horse shit about like, oh yeah, we just want a safe haven. Oh yeah, everybody's on a kibbutz. We made the desert bloom. Yeah, we got attacked every time. Bullshit. Colonial settlers that have been viciously attacking their neighbors to accrue more land and making us pay for it because they've totally and utterly captured our government and our media. But I love that we're broken free now. I love it. I hope we never serve Israel or any other country again. I believe in freedom. Last one, DJ Payne says, thank you, just giving what I can to support, and he gave $1.99. I love you for it, DJ Payne. So don't you worry about how much or how little or any of that. We just love the idea and working together. All right, happy 4th of July, everybody. Happy Independence Day. May we regain our independence one of these days. But please have a great time. And then write about it on tyt.com/joy so we can all enjoy it together. Love you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you on Monday.
Hot dog is my favorite meat.